Chester.
Thank you.
Welcome to Virgin Mega. So we just heard your next album, and we're counting the days before its final release. And the first words that come to our minds is emotion and moving and surprise too. So was it the main goal when you enter into the studio to produce this effect?
I can say that collectively there was a goal. Our goal was to make a record that still had captured what it is we felt makes us unique and makes us who we are. We wanted to be able to mix different styles of music, and we wanted to, have a sound that's unmistakable Linkin Park, but we wanted to present it in a different way. We didn't want to write an album that sounded like Meteora or sounded like Hybrid Theory. So we knew that we had a lot of work ahead of us, and we knew that we had a challenge. Because what we've been doing in the past has worked so well for us. There is a risk involved in changing that. But that's one of the reasons why we took so long in working on the record, was to find in ourselves as songwriters the right ways of doing that in the right kind of music and the right style and the right confidence it takes to be able to accomplish that.
Did you reinvent your songwriting process or your production process?
Both. We did everything 100% differently on this record than we have in the past. Traditionally, it's taken us around a year. I knew it took about 12 months to write Hybrid Theory. We started writing songs for Meteora 18 months before we released it, but I'd say collectively it took about the same amount of time, about 12 to 14 months to write that record. And on both of those albums with Hybrid Theory, we wrote the music, got the music up to where we felt it was ready to record. There were some melodies that were in place, but we were in the studio for 2 months. So first month we recorded all the instruments. Second month we focused on melody and lyrics. We wrote all the lyrics, and we wrote about probably 80 to 90% of the melodies during that time, and recorded everything. With Meteora, we spent 3 months in the studio. Again, about 1 month or so recording all the music, 2 months working on melodies and lyrics. On this record, we spent 15 months in the studio. We wrote 150 songs, and Mike and I worked on vocals for about 9 months. So it was a much different process. And, even the way we wrote, we split up into groups, and we intentionally kept Mike and Brad from working together too much in the beginning, because that's how we worked in the past. Is Mike and Brad have gotten together, wrote some music, then they would bring it to the other guys when they got comfortable enough to show everybody what they've been working on. This time around, we all started working together in groups, and then we'd trade hard drives and trade songs and split, and then switch partners and work on new stuff. And it was a really great experience. And everybody was involved 100% of the time. And everybody contributed more on this record, I think, than they had in the past.
The atmosphere is quite strange, because it sounds like the collaboration between King Crimson and Aphex Twin and U2. So was it one of your main influences when you started to create these arrangements, this progressive experimental sound, even though the final result is stripped down to the melody in your voice?
Yeah, I really do believe that we will be known as a progressive band. I think we've been very progressive in our work in the past, and I think even more so people will recognize that on this record. But there was a lot of experimenting. There's a lot of risk taking and going out and doing things that we hadn't done in the past. And that being said, we did get to a point a couple times in the process where the songs we were driven towards, because we early on made the decision not to write music that we thought we were supposed to write. You know, it didn't have to have Mike rapping in the verse. It didn't have to have me singing in the chorus. It didn't have to have a PRS running through a Marshall head. It didn't have to have one drum set up and Rob knock it out in 2 days. You know, each song needed its own attention, its own instruments, its own setup to make what that song could be potentially as good as it could be. You know. And we got to a point where we were listening to some of the tracks, and you know, for example, like a track like, you know, Hands Held High. That is a song that sounds almost like a church hymn. It's got you know, it's got organs, it's got a marching band drum beat, and it's got Mike rapping on it. And you know, in the past, I don't think that song would have, as great musically as it was, I don't think it would have even gotten to the vocal aspect of it, because we would have been like, this can't go on a record. You know, we'd limited ourselves in that sense. And on this record, we just kind of said, there's, you know, sky's the limit. Like, if we like it, we need to work on it, even if at first glance it may not seem like a Linkin Park song. The end result of Hands Held High is a very Linkin Park style song. It's as Linkin Park as anything else, but we really had to open ourselves and open our minds to be able to be willing to work on something like that.
You worked with Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
When you worked with Johnny Cash, he told to Johnny Cash to go back to his roots and just to express himself deeply without anything else. Was it the kind of advices he gave you to you?
He said right away, like, you know, in order for you guys to be viewed as great songwriters and as a band that is unique and stands out on its own, you have to be able to not fall into the trap of making music that you think you're supposed to make. You can't, you know, if you think, well, we have to stick to the formula that's worked for us in the past, it's not true. If you don't think that you can, you know, play banjo on a song, or have Chester singing over an acoustic guitar, those are things that don't make any sense. You write music that matters to you, and whatever it is, whatever you're inspired to write, that's what you need to work on. Whatever makes you feel something, that's what's important, because that's what music is here for. It's to make you feel something. And so we just went with it, it was a very similar approach, I think, and I think he uses that approach probably with almost everyone. It's just like, be true to yourself and be true to what you're doing, and you know, if the music's good, people will like it.
Did you suffer in the United States nowadays as an artist who wants to express himself?
I didn't understand the first part of that question. Sorry.
Did you suffer as an artist who wants to express himself in the United States nowadays?
You know, it's interesting because I've been talking to some people, and you know, these are guys that have been around for a while, and you know, they started getting into music in the 60s and 70s and stuff, and I've been hearing a lot from those guys that, you know, bands don't have anything to say in a lot of music today, and there are a few bands, you know, I don't want to generalize it too much, but there are some bands that are willing to go out on a limb and express themselves and say something that's how they feel, and you know, I think we're one of those bands, and I think with this record, more than ever, you know, we've kind of stepped into some places that maybe we weren't as comfortable going into before. We're fairly, you know, we're all young guys, and we just now, I think, can consider ourselves men and stuff. So where we are today is definitely much different than where we were 10 years ago, and I think that we're saying a lot of things that we feel need to be said on this record, and there's some other bands out there that are doing similar things, but You know, I think everyone in America, I think, kind of feels almost like they've got something to say, but they just don't know if they're allowed to or if they can. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's
I think this next election is going to say a lot.
Yeah. That was I was asking you these questions because I meet so much artists who said that they can sometimes they don't find words just to say what they are witnessing, and that's why I was asking you if it was a difficult process just to write songs about your
it
your
is.
status.
It is. It's well, I think it's important for us. It's important to not tell you what to do. You know what I mean? And especially when you're touching on socially driven lyrics or politically driven lyrics, that you have to take, you have to take the politics out, and that's your own politics out. That's the difficult part. Like, to not have an agenda, to just make an observation because you want to do the right thing or you want the right thing to be done. That's not an easy thing to do. And there's a difference between, being aware and forcing an opinion on somebody. And it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of thoughtfulness to be able to do that. And I think that Mike and I have accomplished that in some of the songs that we've written on this record. Like Hands Held High and No More Sorrow and The Little Things Give You Away. Those are all statements on some observations that we've been making and some statements that we feel we needed to make and on certain aspects of the world we live in today. And certainly with Hands Held High, or with The Little Things Give You Away, that was written after visiting New Orleans a year after Katrina hit, and it was not good. When you grow up in a place that tells you, what a wonder, you live in the best place in the world, and you're safe here, and you can always count on your government to be there for you, and that's why you pay taxes, and that's why so many people sacrifice themselves for our military actions and stuff, is to protect our freedom and our way of life. And then when something like that happens and you're left out to dry, left out to die, basically, it just seems, it was really upsetting to me. You kind of feel a little lied to. And so it was important for us to talk about some of these things and do it in a way that really was just really about the feeling and kind of the observation rather than politics involved.
You still write with a kind of universal point of view?
Well, we try to. With all of our lyrics, we try to write it in a way that everyone can relate to. But I think some things are more obvious than others, and it's not. We leave things open for interpretation, so you can apply them to your own life. But the sentiment is obvious, I think.
Any departing words for our French audience?
I just would like to say to our fans out here that we are so very thankful for their support, and we truly feel that France is one place in the world where our fans appreciate all of the things that we do, all of our different styles, and all of our everything from hybrid theory to reanimation, collision course, and hopefully the new record too. That they seem to understand what we're doing a little bit better than a lot of the other places, and it truly is it's an honor to have a fan base that is accepting of your music the way that the French fans are accepting of Linkin Park's music. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you.